Hello, everyone. Thank you all for joining. I am Kunal, one of the community managers of Mentor Spaces. Mentor Spaces is a platform that helps underrepresented professionals connect with mentors, mentors that you see on the panel here today. We have been doing live sessions so that we can connect all of you to mentors in a more intimate way through roundtable discussions. And so through the month of March, we've hosted a number of sessions, and this is one of our last sessions for March that showcases mentors who can speak to establishing a personal brand and what is social capital, what does it actually mean. So we have a guest host this time around. His name is Vaden. He's one of the community members of Mentor Spaces, and he's shown a great interest in being a part of the community and being a leader as a moderator. So I'll go ahead and pass it over to him. But before I pass it over, I just want to let everybody know that this is definitely an intimate session where if you have any questions, feel free to raise your hand. If you have a comment or a thought that goes alongside one of the panelists or against one of the panelists, feel free to raise your hand and we'll unmute you so that you can share your thoughts and perspectives. And we really want everybody to feel like this is a platform that they can share. And so we have a few questions that we'll go through that Vaden will kind of conduct, but I'll pass it over to him to lead the discussion. Thanks, Vaden.
No problem. Hi, everyone. I'm Vaden. I'm the guest moderator for today's roundtable discussion on establishing a personal brand and also what is social capital and how you can utilize it. First off, I'm going to start off by introducing our panelists today. We have Diane, Courtney, and Dalit. And I'll just let them introduce themselves as we go through the slides here. First off, we have Courtney.
Hi, everyone. I'm Courtney Aiken. I'm the CEO of ShowKase Entertainment. We are an event, project, and brand management firm. And so I've been working for the last 5 years with people to plan their events. Last year was really a lot of helping people to build brands because of the pandemic. Of course, a lot of events were not able to be hosted. And I also work, on the operational support side for businesses as well.
All right, thank you. Next up, Dalit.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay, excellent. Good afternoon, and thank you for having me on this panel. So I am Enterprise Fraud Risk Officer at TIAA. That means that I lead oversight of activities that are designed to prevent, detect, and investigate fraud in TIAA. And by saying fraud, we mean fraud against our customers and against our corporate asset as a whole, and misconduct, and so on and so forth. I'm a CPA by training, but I've turned that experience around to be a fraud related, fraud-related risk manager, which will come later when I talk about personal brand.
All right, and lastly, I'm not quite sure what happened there, but we had Diane also. Diane, you just want to introduce yourself, I guess.
Absolutely, be my pleasure. Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Diane Cassetta, and I'm the Chief Marketing Officer for Northwestern Mutual, Goodwin, Wright, here in Atlanta. There are probably about 78 offices across the country, and we are the leading Northwestern Mutual office. So I'm delighted to be here. Look forward to chatting.
Awesome. Well, we're going to move on to our first question for the roundtable. And that's the road to a confident identity. I just want to ask you guys, and feel free to chime in anytime, how do you identify what's unique about yourself? And then how do you make it a part of your brand?
Should I go first?
Sure, since you took the lead, go ahead.
All right. Well, I think the most important thing that you have to think about is really being your authentic self, right? It's about your natural style, your swagger. Think about your friends and family, and how they see you, what they love about you and why they think you're super cool. And then as you make these reflections, that really becomes your messaging, the content that you'll eventually push out that will build your brand. And then I think too, you want to think about, am I a formal person? Am I casual? You know, how are you presenting? And I think as you go through this process, what you are going to find is really the authentic self that you share may have something to do with the audience that you're targeting. So maybe you've got to think about your audience or your market. So if you're in sales and marketing and you're just launching your career, you might think about your natural market. So who do you do life with, right? And you're thinking about, how do you build a brand around how you meet and connect with that particular market? And then I think the other thing that's really important that I find in marketing, there are so many professionals that do what we do, right? But outside the workplace, we're so different. So think about those things that create a point of differentiation for yourself, like your volunteer work or what your hobbies are. If you're a mountain climber or you're a dirt bike rider, or do you love women's leadership? Are you an advocate for a certain group? Are you connected to your alma mater? And I think as you think about those things that for which you have a passion, that imagery and that messaging, bringing that to life as you build your brand is probably one of the most interesting components of what people want to know about you.
That's interesting. That's really nice to hear. Sometimes people say your brand tends to sell itself after a certain point, but once you have to get to that point. So I'm curious to hear how Courtney, how do you do that?
Absolutely. And just to follow up with what Diane said, it's about determining what you are passionate about. Because I think that sometimes when we look, and I know we're going to get into, social media and everything later, but, it can be so easily to be influenced with what may be trending and trying to identify with that. But it's really about identifying the gifts and the talents that are on the inside of you. For example, I have a passion to help others, and I love to see others succeed. And so with my brand, people know that if I go and talk to Courtney about my event or my project or whatever it is I want to work on, that she's going to be completely passionate about it and treat it as if it's her own because she wants to see me succeed. So that's really how you can identify what's unique about yourself, like being comfortable in your own skin, being the authentic you again, just to piggyback off of what Diane said, and loving and embracing who you are.
Okay.
I'd like to add a perspective. So I could not agree more with Diane and Courtney about the importance of passion. It is, I don't know if it is at all possible. I'm not a marketing or branding guru, but I would find it difficult to believe that you can be really, really successful if you're not passionate about a particular, whatever it is that you're selling as your own brand. But I also think that there are at least two more components to this personal brand thing. One is, a professional trait, which is what is it that you know a lot about, right? Whether you studied it, whether you majored in whatever it is, whether you have experiences, whatever the experiences that you have that had been coupled together in a manner that allows you to observe patterns or to develop a particular perspective around an area, right? So that I'm going to group all of this into what is a professional, the professional element in your branding. Then there's beyond the passion, right? There's what are the personal traits that you bring to your own brand? And a personal trait could be something such as, do you stand up and speak up, or do you influence others in ways that are more subtle and behind the scenes, right? These are two personal traits that are hugely different from one another, and it reflects on how you choose or can enable yourself to exercise your expertise, right, and your brand. So there are at least three things that I'm thinking about when I'm thinking about personal branding. And really the personal brand is the combination of those three.
Gotcha. So build a technical foundation, but the technical foundation can only go so far. So you have to bring a personal trait that kind of exacerbate that foundation further.
Exactly.
Gotcha.
And I want to make another small point. I think that your personal brand can change in the course of your career, right? And it can change as you move from one organization to another, right? As a CPA, when I was a partner in PwC, there was nothing unique about me being a CPA in a CPA firm. Now that I'm in TIAA, which is a asset managers with 1.3 or 4 trillion dollars under management, me being a CPA, I'm probably one of 2 or 3 in my group, right? So I bring that perspective, which is different than others. So I tend to leverage my experience as an accountant and my perspective as a former auditor more so than I did before, because that's what makes me unique.
Gotcha. Well, that kind of leads right into what I say with this quote here. If a brand wants to build social communities, capital, and influence, it must become the chief celebrant of its community, not a celebrity. This simple shift in approach unlocks enormous transformative potential for brands. And Mr. Mainwaring, back off of that, let me think about these questions here. What is social capital and how do I utilize it? So kind of what you were talking about, Ms. Stern, earlier, you can have that social capital, you can have that technical background, but it only goes so far. How do you actually utilize it? And I built these questions here. It said, how do you all define social capital? And as minorities, have you ever felt that you had to exaggerate in a sense of your brand for it to be recognized? And if so, how did you navigate doing so without kind of coming off as aggressive to peers? Because that can also, in a sense, set you back more so than, you're going in thinking, I'm going to show them I'm the best person in this. But then it comes off too aggressive to some people. And then it sets your career back because the people who have what you want are deterred.
Well, I would take this. So to me, social capital means who's in my corner, who's my support community, who could be or are my center of influences, my network. Because my network, my centers of influence will serve as valued sources for me as I help. Value sources that is going to drive like activity and energy and ultimately will help me drive my ability to kind of reach my goals and objectives. So I think the key question is, how do you grow social capital? And we've talked a little bit about this, but I do think you seek others who have the same passion, same interests, same industry, but who are doing really good things. So are they the experts in their field? Are they doing social media well? And connect with them and then share stories and knowledge. And then invite them to connect you to their community. And then I think the most important thing is to understanding the whole thing of growing social capital is around trust and respect, I think. And I think the fastest way to grow success is first helping others to succeed. And so I'm very tactical. So thinking about, all right, how do I grow my social capital? It can be overwhelming. It can be overwhelming, particularly if you're new at it. So what I would do is I would sit down and think about, okay, who are 3 professionals, 3 community leaders that I want to have a relationship with, that I can lean into and have a mutually beneficial relationship. We can help one another, but I also think at the end of the day, as you grow your social capital, you've got to make sure you're doing it with people that you enjoy being around. So I know that may be a little off topic, but I think those are some important things to share from my perspective.
Gotcha. Courtney, you want to share on that?
Yeah, and just to add to what Diane said, also being careful about not being so competitive or viewing others as your competition, because there are people who complement you, Right. So really being open and receptive to connections and to even to networking as well with others. And you also have to be sure to identify those who really share the same passion and the viewpoint or have a similar mission to what you're doing. Because sometimes it's easy to get caught up in seeing, oh, this person has a lot of followers. Let me try to see if I can, connect with them in order to get my following up. But then, you guys have two totally different viewpoints and it may not be successful. I've seen where people have done things in the past, whether it's virtually or in person, where they try to connect with someone who may have that. And that project or that event doesn't turn out to be that successful. And people are like, well, I rather would have seen you rather than you bringing in someone else. So I think that it's important to really make sure that you understand your purpose and your mission. Identify on those people who do share that same passion, that mission, and that purpose together. Because as you build a platform and open up your brand to platform other people, it brings you other exposure. And then it also brings them other exposure as well. It grows your network.
Well, and the other thing, Courtney, too, to speak to your comments, you and I both could be, A+ event planners, right? And create client experiences that are unparalleled. Mm-hmm. But you and I are very different. And we're going to bring different personality and different perspective. Yep. So sometimes you'll realize the person you think may be your biggest competitor is actually your biggest advocate. Because if Courtney went to a meeting to win a business, to engage a prospective client, my guess with our different perspectives in life, we'd probably walk out there with a big win. So sometimes collaboration is really important.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. I completely agree.
When I'm thinking about social capital, it's really, who is it that I can turn to for, sometimes concrete help, right? So if I'm interviewing for a job at company X and I want to know about company X, right? And we should probably recognize every organization has its own lingo, right? So you want to come in and use the lingo that organization uses when they communicate. So in order to, you can find it probably on social media and in press releases and all that, but it's always helpful to talk to someone who works there or used to work there, such that they can share with you, the buzzwords that the organization uses at a particular point of time, right? So anyone in your network who's willing to get together with you and share those that lingo and what is important, what those buzzwords, that's a very concrete way of utilizing your network and your social capital, because it doesn't necessarily mean that person will get you the job, right? But they will help you. They will expand your knowledge and expertise in what you're trying to sell by sharing of their informal knowledge, right? So it is I'm thinking about social capital as a glue, right? It's not necessarily knowledge base that is formal, it's more in the informal, but it's equally important. At the same time, I'm thinking about social capital as people to whom you can turn and maybe run an idea by them, or hear you articulate a complex concept, such that they could say, you know what, you may want to change the tone of this, such that, to your point, Cornell, before, it may sound a little less aggressive than the direct way that you originally put it, right? So someone that you can talk to, right? Not necessarily to provide a concrete help or assistance, but more of kind of a sounding board, or maybe a professional perspective that you didn't consider. So
it's going back to having a network, right, of trusted advisors that you can count on for guidance, and it's those trusted center of influences, but then it's you also got to think about, how do you get there? So like Courtney was talking about, how do you get there? How do you build it? You know, and so I think it's
Gotcha.
those two components are important.
Gotcha.
And I don't want to underestimate the importance of, before you're asking someone to do something for you, you may want to have had an opportunity to provide a help before, or at least make yourself available to help. So that's where those, the shared experiences are so important. It is easy to offer help or ask for help from someone who is in your own, whatever, professional or social network. So it's less, it's less awkward.
So I guess, yeah. So the term quid pro quo generally comes with bad connotation to it. But there's also a good side to quid pro quo. You can come in and say, hey, I need your help. In exchange, I can offer this.
And it doesn't have to be blunt, right?
Right.
And I think people in professional settings are aware that, you reach out, I do something for you, next time there's an expectation, not guarantee, but an expectation that your quid will be met with a quo at some point.
And then sometimes if you do have complementing businesses, right, then you can be a little bit more forthright, right? So if you've got a core competency that relies on a key partner, you can be honest with one another. Say, hey, I'm trying to build my network of trusted go-to companies with whom I have a really strong. So in that way, you can definitely be just completely forthright.
Right. And barter with each other as well. Yep.
Gotcha. Well, moving on.
I wanted to jump in here. Go ahead. We got a question from the audience, and I know that we'd love.
Let's go back to the slide. Let's go ahead.
Go for it. And this kind of goes to some of the points that Dalit made, as well as Diane. Really trying to find people as you're building your social capital who look like you or have an affinity to, that you can relate to as you start, building your social capital. So a question that we got from the audience is, given that this is Women's History Month, or International Women's History Month, does being female present unique opportunities to utilize social capital? And say,
that's a great question.
Really good question.
A female panelist.
How much time do you have?
We stick to these for 30 minutes, but you can go on as long as you want to.
I think that, I don't know who the audience is, but I think that being a woman, especially for some of us who've been around for a while, it gets better, right? And time have changed, and it is easier today than it was 20 years ago. I think that I don't know Courtney or Diane, but it would be really easy for me to reach out to them and say, hey, let's have dinner. No, not right now, but in any other time, I think it would be perfectly fine if I offered lunch or dinner will be equally okay for me, I think, to offer and to get them to agree. If I'm trying to network with a man, right, I think all of a sudden the offer to have drinks or dinner may or may not come with kind of, where is she going with this, right?
Yeah.
So it's a little bit different. So that's just the obvious point, right? I think there is immediate camaraderie around between women. I think that stems from just again, we're going back to this glue, shared experiences. Without knowing one another, I bet we share experiences of being the only one of her kind in a room full of men. We may share an experience of being mothers and juggling that, right? We may even, I don't know anything about these two ladies because we just met, but we may be perceived as being aggressive because we shared our views in an assertive manner, which is something that I've, my entire career has been, something that I had to, it's a challenge. I didn't struggle with that, but it's a challenge there, because when you want to say, here's my point of view, and there's someone else who want to capitalize the way some men do on whatever a woman said before. There's a tension there that is getting easier and easier, in the last 20, 25 years, but I don't think it's gone. I hope that's useful.
Well, and the reference around being Women's History Month, it definitely gives you the opportunity, right, to feel more comfortable to reach out and connect. If you're following a leader, a woman leader, that you haven't really had the courage, or you felt like the timing's not been right, you can watch what they're doing and what they're sharing and posting. And if something really resonates, it is a great opportunity to say, listen, I'm young in my career, and I feel like I need someone of your level of leadership experience to answer a couple questions that I have. Would you be willing to spend 15 minutes with me on it? Because now you're building social capital, right? You're creating your network. That's the glue that we're talking about. But I do feel like a platform like Women's History Month does give you opportunity to ease the conversation a little bit more on particular topics.
Absolutely. And I completely agree with both of you as well. I do believe that sometimes when it comes to getting your point across, I'm going to kind of cover both a little bit. When it comes to getting your point across, you can seem or be labeled as aggressive if you're a little strong. But then on the other side, sometimes you could be seen as being, I don't know if I want to say the word weak, but I know I've heard that before, where people are like, Courtney, you're just a little too nice, or you're really sweet. And so sometimes people may think that they can walk over you or take advantage, but you can still be who you are and be strong and stand in your truth. And so I'm sure that, we all have those similar stories, that if we were to go out with each other, we would share that, that there are prejudgments there because of that. But I also believe that as women, we are multifaceted. We're able to be successful in so many different arenas and in so many different avenues, right? And so I also believe that it is important to reach out to, another woman who may have gone the path that you're wanting to go down, because more than likely they will be there to assist you. I just think that naturally as women, we're nurturers, and we want to see you succeed, right? We want to see another woman shine. And so I really believe that building that connection and not being afraid to reach out is so important. And I know if it wasn't for other women that I reached out to, and said, hey, this is what I want to do. And them, reaching down to me because someone did the same for them, that builds social capital, as Diane said, but it also builds legacy. And I think that it continues to open up so many opportunities for more women to not be afraid to get out there and to get into the corporate arena.
Awesome. Really great answers. Thank you for sharing that perspective. And I hope that answered your question, Joyce. Looks like you got a positive message. All right. Vaden.
All right. Well, we'll move on. Thank you, Joyce, for that question. According to the Small Business Bureau, 627,000 new businesses are created every year. And I bring that up because there are a lot of people who want to become, in this technological age, the next Zuckerberg or whatnot, and they don't realize the competition that's out there that they're facing every year, right? I also bring that up because, you got to overcome self-doubt in this fast-changing society. So what would you say to someone who fears that because of the prominence of personal branding, there's nothing unique about them that someone else hasn't already branded? How do you overcome that fear?
I mean, I just think it's knowing that we are absolutely all uniquely different. I mean, none of us are the same. I mean, your personal brand by definition is an expression of just your individuality, your values, your priorities, your style of communication. We talked about that. So, I mean, you started with Zuckerberg, and that's competitive, right? Research your competitive market, and that's like a whole nother panel. But I think just making sure you find your space. And I wrote down just a list because I wanted to be able to have some tactical things that I could share. I mean, if you were just starting or refining, making sure you've got a brand that you want to project. I mean, make sure you get professional headshots done, get some lifestyle shots done, you know, what you're doing outside of the workplace, you know, kind of sharing your personality, be social by design, you know, so make sure you're discoverable. So you're creating a platform or two where people can find you. And use the platforms that you enjoy and are most comfortable using, whether that's Instagram or Facebook or LinkedIn, which is a much more professional platform. And then I just had, you know, some other things. Always be a good listener. As you begin to build social capital, meet with people, be a good listener first. Always have a positive attitude and show up consistently. One day, don't show up to a Zoom call in one manner, and the next time you show up in a different, show up consistently. Those were just some quick things I wanted to share. I don't know if that's helpful.
Yeah, that definitely would help. That's great knowledge there. Thank you.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And I get asked that question a lot too when I help people to build their businesses and brands. You know, well, Courtney, this person's doing the same thing as me. Why should I? You know, I have a friend who wanted to open up a boutique. And she said, Courtney, there's so many people who are doing boutiques online. What's going to set me apart? I said, just put your clothes out there. I said, this is your target audience. You know, don't be afraid that someone else in the same city, or, you know, we see McDonald's, Wendy's, Burger King, we see all these restaurants that are on the same street as each other, but they're all successful. And now she's at a place where every week she's selling out of inventory because she stepped out there. And even though she was afraid, there are other people doing the same thing as me, but she has different customers from who the others are, you know, that they may have. And this is another example I'll give. You know, airplanes all take off. They may take off from the same runway, but they go to a different destination. So just because we're in the same industry doesn't mean that we're going to go the same places. There are so many doors. There are so many opportunities out there for everyone. So just do it. What's for you, you'll be able to attract it.
Well, and some professionals too have a natural knack for like building client experiences and customer service. There may be a boutique down the road that has great garments, but the leadership and the owners don't understand customer service, and they're not relatable and approachable. So, I mean, it's really all about you and kind of the experience that you create, because we could go out to, you know, a different store buying the same product, and our return business may be on a different scale based on what we've experienced.
Yep.
Gotcha. Ms. Stern, you have anything to chime in on that? Overcoming the fear of personal branding?
Again, maybe it reflects on me. I think that before jumping into doing things, I need to be really well prepared. So in this case, I would want to know, actually, maybe a little bit reacting to what Courtney said, before I set up my boutique or sandwich shop or whatever it is, I want to make sure that there aren't 20 of the same type already catering to the same. So market research and information and thoughtful consideration, I think is really important. Otherwise, you will be wasting your own resources, right? Time and energy and passion on something that maybe is doomed to not be as successful as it could be just because it's oversaturated. So, you know, legwork and homework are important.
You know, and again, it's probably my personality, but to that point, if there's something that you want to do, you have a passion for, but you feel like the majority of the business idea, the plan is already taken, saturated, go have a conversation with that business owner. He or she may reach a point in the evolution of their business that they want to diversify, or they want to franchise, or they need some kind of a partnership development program. So never be afraid to have that initial conversation with someone who's doing something similar or you view as competitive, because great things come out of any conversation that you have. So, I mean, that's an opportunity for you too.
Yeah, amen to that. Reach out and don't be afraid.
Yes.
Well, that's the last question I have for the panel here. But if we want to open up the floor for a quick questions and answering session, that's also great here. Make it maybe 5 minutes or so. We can have the audience ask some questions. Kunal, if you can take over for the raising of the hands there. And we'll just hand it off to the panel.
Let's give it a minute or so to see if any questions come in. While I wait, I just wanted to let everybody know that this is something that we're going to consistently do to help you connect with mentors or folks that have had learned experiences to share. And we will certainly, continue to notify you when these sessions are happening. We have a whole schedule that we're planning for April, all designed to, the next one is actually going to be focused on, I'll pull it up in a second, really making sure that you're ready to share information about choosing a new career path. And if you're in that stage, certainly would be great for you to join to hear perspectives from mentors that can support you there. I have one question that just came in from Joyce. Real quickly, maybe rapid fire, one key lesson that you'd like to share from your learned experiences for the panel, maybe a minute or so for that.
You don't have to do it alone. There's tons of resources and experts and leaders that have come before you. Find them and leverage them.
Be confident in yourself. It doesn't matter if you may not be on the same level that someone else is on right now. You have to understand that everyone has gone through a process in order to get to where they are. So don't despise where you may be right now. Just be confident and build. Be confident in your ability.
Awesome.
I'd agree with that, and I'd say make sure that you get to the point where you are confident, that you have a reason to be confident about, right? So going back to the beginning of this panel where we talked about personal brand and the foundation on which your personal brand is based on, right? You have to get there with either professional knowledge or professional or passion or some other experience. I think if you develop these and you are concrete about how you use them, it will be easier to be confident.
Great. Well, yeah, Vaden, I'll let you close it out. This has been very inspirational. Thank you all for sharing and providing some tactical advice as well as some very inspirational support.
Thank you all. Thank you guys for joining us, and hopefully we can do this in the future and see you guys again. Thank you, Courtney, Diane, and Ms. Dalit, and have a great day. Thank you all.
Good to be with you.